IHMA, these IHMA 50, the certainty of the uncertainty in the corridor. At the grand reunion of the 50th year anniversary of IHM Ahmedabad, held this year, last month, at Ahmedabad, at Gandhinagar, in the new campus, MC Samir, the 1995 pass out, the MD of ITC Fortune Park Hotels, on stage at the grand function, said in his address, with due respects to Mr. Sahu, the present principal, and apologies, I'm going to paraphrase that one-liner from the iconic film Diwar. Sir, you have the campus, the labs, the auditorium, the razzmatazz, but we had Mr. Rafique, Mr. Nasir Muhammad Rafique. Maybe you are just reaffirming what Mr. Rafique used to quote then on the lack of fund infrastructure at all. With institutions are not made of brick and mortar, they're made by dedicated teaching faculty members, a well-stacked library, and the alumni. IHM Ahmedabad was not the sprawling, state-of-the-art campus that it is today in Gandhinagar. It earlier was housed in a typically grey color government building, that life insurance corporation type of building. A small, very small infrastructure structure located within the government boys polytechnic compound in Ambawadi. In 1983, when we joined there as the first course of the 3-year diploma in hotel management and catering technology, the space for us was limited, and further limited with the vivisection of the building vertically, the other half for the technical education board officers. But Mr. Rafique and our teachers made up for that, and how we learned, and we loved that loved that limited space. We learned to use optimally each inch. Maybe that made us realize in our life that we would encounter limitations, and how best to optimally use those limitations. We learned how to cut the available leather to suit the leg. That limitation of space benefited us, as we didn't need that much cliched corporate term of bonding, which they call management experts and all, because the third years, the first years, the second years, and the craft course program students, they were one, each one knowing the other, because of the limited space. We interact with everybody. We knew each other so well that we forced a relationship with each other for a lifetime. Now that is lacking in a big infrastructure, where a student maybe doesn't know even his own course mate. The space being the problem there, humongous space being the problem. We learned small is beautiful, the god of small things, yes. For a building had a soul. To call it a building is an insult. But IHM Ahmedabad, not Gandhinagar, had a soul. There was a romance about it. There was no bunking of classes by a homogeneous group only. It was always a heterogeneous group, formed just at the moment. Okay, you coming? You free? You're free? You'll be bunking. I'm going to see that movie. Okay, so there'll be 2 or 3 craft course boys, girls. There are 2 or 3 first year, second year, third year, sprinkling on the gathering, and they went off. So there's no first year only. There's no my batch boy people only. That sort of thing. My group people only. The corridor and the certainty and the corridor and the uncertainty of the corridor, and the certainty of the certainty awaiting us is at the heart of this narrative. That corridor is physically located inside to the left after entering the institute. That passage of a corridor leading yonder to the 2 classrooms at the end, 1 classroom actually, but partitioned into 2. Didn't I tell you? Optimum use of resources. Almost 40 feet long, that passage of the corridor, with the founder principal, Mr. nmrafique's office, about 10 feet to the right, on the right, And adjacent to that was the storeroom where the students from the kitchen picked up the requisition materials for their classes. Next to the stores was Mr. Borgia Bedek's office. Mr. Borgia Bedek, swarthy looking, and he was strict, a martinet, not even strict, a martinet, a terror, in contrast to Mr. Rafique, the principal, gentle, parental figure, Chacha, his moniker, Mr. Borgia's tyrant, Hitler, what all. But the corridor of this narrative virtually could be anywhere in the building, wherever and whenever we had an encounter with Chacha. But the encounters were friendly. They were not encounters of like the police, or they were not third degree. But third degree at times was much better than that. As they say, the finest learnings take place outside the classroom, not within. Here are a few samples of these friendly encounters that happened about 3 decades back. If you were late, you got it. If you're before time, Chacha would still catch you napping for not tucking your shirt in. If all the above was in place, you are found below par on something else. His eyes never missed anything. Nothing escaped his eyes. Grooming standards, a shirt not buttoned, black shoes missing the shine, or there's no black pair of socks under the black trousers. Laces not, if everything in place, laces not knotted correctly. But once I was caught literally napping. I had everything in place. I was smart, turned out smartly. I was before time, much before time. And I was humming under my breath, for God was in the heavens, smiling. But there was Chacha to bring me down to earth. Being a voracious reader, which I still am, I always had a book in my bag to read at the bus stop, in the bus also, and wherever I went. If I got the time, I would sit down and read a book instead of doing anything else. And they were borrowed books from the library. And we had to avoid paying a fine. We had to return back within a stipulated time period. Hence, that book was very important. And why waste time? You could read a book instead. The book that day, I had forgotten to put it back. It slipped my mind to put it back in the bag after getting off the bus. So the book was still in my hand when Chacha encountered me in the corridor again, just outside his office. I had almost passed his cabin. He caught me there. Good morning, sir. The greetings of the day followed, of course. And then he said, Neel Krishnan, what is that book in your hand? I swore under my breath. Bloody hell, Chacha caught me again for something. I said, sir, Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. So as I handed over the book to him, he took the book, had a look at it, and then looked at his watch and said, Borgia is getting upset every day because I delay his students with these sort of things, and I would send a note excusing the student till when. So you better be off and get tested for your classes. Why do you do one thing? I'm here today. Why don't you come in the evening at around 5 o'clock? Would you mind coming at 5 o'clock to office? We'll talk about the book. Did I have a choice to say no? So that evening, I was there at 1700 hours, and he was there, seated me, and then he initiated a discussion on Atlas Shrugged. Now there I was, a teenager, and there he was, a very voracious reader. We read books, he devoured them. That's the difference. And he was in experience, in age, and for my knowledge, he had wisdom, and there's a difference that. He was not at all trying to belittle me. That never was his style. He could never do that. That's not him. But then he started asking pointed questions about that book, about the protagonist, Howard Rock, and what kind of challenges he faced and why he faced those challenges, and how did he overcome that, and his frustration, etc., etc. And then he added points because he found me a little nervous. I was stuttering and spitting there. because that was my first discussion with him on a book, and that too, Iron Rand of all the books in my hand. But he encouraged me. His encouragement was very nice, and he encouraged me to keep talking. So finally, I got my breath under control, and I managed to hold on. But then that taught me a big lesson, that discussion rather, was beautiful, because he made me understand that as his student, as his ward, I had to get into detail into whatever I did. If I read a book, I would have to have a memory retention, and memory recall, and be able to discuss about it. There was no point, as he always added, saying that there's no point in skimming the knowledge, the surface of this ocean of knowledge. Get deep into it, soak it in. Other times, encounters would be, Neel, I have not seen a book in your hand nowadays, but I'm sure you're reading some book. Which books are these? So discussions on Jonathan Livingston Seagull, Discovery of India, and Glimpses of World History by Jawaharlal Nehru, The Story of My Encounters with Truth by Gandhi Ji, and other books. I found in him a mentor, a chacha, who indulges attention on me about books. I found in him a very nice person, a man who never looked at his watch, despite the fact that he had 2 children and he was a family man. And at times we were the last two to leave the campus. Long after the cows came home. Enriching with the discussions, so they were not only limited to books, but went beyond to Wimbledon, the pure sciences, where I expressed my lack of aptitude and knowledge, and on science fiction and astronomy, which had nothing to do with, but I found it still interesting. And I asked him questions, and I learned a little bit. Physics, I learned. He made physics so interesting. At times, a casual chat with me or someone else in the corridor would turn into a full-spirited discussion. He was a voice of reason when teenage temperaments flared up for him to mediate. And that's how he learned about shotguns, rifles, and other firearms. When a student and he were discussing on them, and how do you clean them, what sort of bullets or magazines or pellets, detail. He knew that so well. An eye for detail was so sharp. He asked me, Neelkantan, did you dress up in a hurry? Once. No, sir. Why? He didn't say anything, he just pointed to my forehead and did with his index finger, he just made a horizontal mark. I said, he indicated to me that I had not that sacred ash that I used to put as a Tamilian every morning after my bath. It was missing, it was not visible. So then he said, Neelkantan, why do you apply this sacred ash, the vibhuti? I said, sir, because I'm a Tamilian, I'm a shy white, so I apply it horizontally. The Iyengars would apply it vertically. He says, no, I don't think that is the complete logic for it. There's something much bigger than that. So now I don't belong to that faith. Now you belong to that faith. So I would expect that you know more about your faith. So why don't you get to know about your faith much better, Neelkantan? Also enlighten me. I'll also learn that way. After lunch, I was missing it from the institute. I was at the Times of India office, where Mr. Iyer, the editor, was there. My father's family friend, and he was knowledgeable. Now, this was beyond my father's knowledge. So I asked him, and Mr. Iyer very beautifully explained to me the logic. And I came back to college next morning, and then Mr. Rafique caught me. Of course, he had to, because I had missed the class after lunch, and he knew that. So he called for me. When he called for me, I said, "Sir, you told me to get this. I got this." He said, "Yes, tell me." So I explained to him. Was he not pleased that even though I got a reprimand for missing classes, I was told I could have gone after 5. Why after lunch? But then he was pleased that I had gone deep into detail and encouraged me to go deeper into detail every year, every time. Parth Chaya, late Parth Chaya, who passed out somewhere in the late 90s. And then he went to meet Mr. Rafique at the State Institute of Hotel Management, Siddhpur. And the first thing when he sees Mr. Rafique is, "Sir, see, my shirt is tucked in." He had been caught so many times in the corridor. The certainty of the corridor, the uncertainty of it. In the age of pre-CCTV, he seemed to be everywhere with his eye for detail, whereas that his words slip up if it was showing, was corrected. His elephantine memory, remembering each student's name, whether his or her attendance needed improvement, recalling to follow up a student's days later on a task that was assigned to a task or something like to find out something. That is exemplary. He remembered out of that 100 or 200 students that he had that time, each student what he had asked to find out. And he would, I don't know how he got them in his sniper's crosshairs. We had a habit. We would any other principal would have flown into a rage on a student still sitting on the entrance step despite being told not to ad nauseam. This man would embarrass us, his students, to gently chat us with, smiling with, "Yaar, don't spoil my steps by sitting there on them, please." We got the message. Another classic liners were, for us, seated on the steps with our backs to the corridor, smoking away to glory, awaiting the young ladies of the housewives course to pass by in the hope that one of them would catch attention and you would catch attention. And once he said, "Yeah, I don't have space for a girls' hostel. Here you are not allowing the housewives to go home. Why are you bent on increasing my cup of woes?" So, hence, we being boys, we still sat there to smoke. When the housewives went back, and as it is, we always left a path for them. Once we only sat on one side of the steps. He realized that boys leave boys, but there was a limit to what mischief he could do, and he was very sporting in that, and that was most beautiful about him. The learnings. We learnt to be confident to take on the world and on the best. Every morning, 0845 hours, you would see him walking through the gate. After being a father to a child, I realized a father of two children, he being a father of two children, would maybe have stayed up the night if the child was not well, with his wife also a working woman, a professor at a leading college of Ahmedabad. They both would have stayed up. But it never showed. You are still there at 0845 hours every day. You could set your clock to it. The certainty of the uncertainties in the corridor without knowing prepared us for the hospitality industries where the standards of excellence would never ever slip. Anytime, every time. That we never were found wanting. Playing. We never found playing the ball outside the off stump. No, we knew how to play the ball outside the off stump. In the corridor, one certainty now, very, very well. Be it punctuality, grooming standards, attention to detail, You could find us, you could not find a student of IHMA come a cropper. We learn to use wit than anger to communicate a message. He, it seems, paraphrased the quote from the seminal book Beyond the Boundary by C.L.R. James. What would they know of cricket? Who only cricket know? Embrace the twist to enjoy the turn. Thank you.